Hello, my name is William Biggs, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate what I've created in this FMOD Studio project. This project is for a hypothetical horror game loosely based on Alan Wake. Right, so that's the sound of me writing in a book, and there's a bell which is actually a tubular bell, and I've pitched it up. Now let's listen to the danger close sounds. This is a 1 minute seamless loop that will just inform the player that there is an enemy nearby. And if you crouch in game, you could hear this sound. This is the sound of a clock sped up with delay on it, and I think a bit of pitch modulation and feedback, all sorts. Now if we go into the timeline, you see there's a player spotted transition. So when I turn this up, it will, and when it reaches 1, it will make this transition here. So you can hear it's actually muted the danger close sounds and the stealth sounds, because now at this point you would hear some sort of chase music, maybe. But this is the sound of when you go hidden again, you get another transition back to this. Right. Next we'll hear the ambience sounds. Let's just listen to the idle sounds of this event. So you can hear that things have been triggered by the scatter sounds, and they won't happen too often. I thought, I've tried to do many different variations, but didn't want them happening all the time, because then you would start to hear when they repeat. And if I turn up the wind intensity knob here, we're actually hearing is the sound of this being elevated to be louder, and then another sample of slightly more, heavier wind coming in. If we turn up the rain has pretty much the same thing, where it's 2 samples, but I've tweaked it so it sounds good. What also happens when you turn up the rain intensity is the thunder intensity goes up with it. So you'll hear thunder happening only when there's rain, and not when there's no rain. I also have this indoor-outdoor slider, which is a low-frequency cutoff for all the wind and the rain and everything, so that it sounds like you're going inside. You can still hear everything, but it's a little less muffled, like you're in shelter. Yeah, that's that. I'll show you the car next. So you can open the door, close the door, turn the car on, which transitions to this. You got a little startup sound. And then you've also got the revs. So yeah, that was very difficult to do, but I managed it. Let's turn the car off. You get that little sound effect. Okay, next we'll move on to the character. So this is an example of an event with lots of independent systems going on. So you have the heartbeat, which is its own nested events. Let's hear that. And then you have this fatigue sound where when you turn that up, you hear me breathing, and it gets louder if you turn it up, if you turn the fatigue up more. And what's interesting about this is when you take damage, if you go into the take damage trigger, it's sidechained to mute the fatigue, so you don't hear the damage and the fatigue at the same time. Let's turn that off. And yeah, you have options to do a torch, but that's fairly simple. It's just, not much there. Now, when you dodge, I had the idea that it would duck all the rest of the signal, so you would just hear this sound effect, and sort of you'd go into a slow motion part. So when you dodged successfully, you would get that little sound, and it would be rewarding. And then for the player death sound, I went for something a little Dark Soulsy. And what that actually does is it triggers a take damage sound, of which there are, how many? 10? And then it also plays this bell sound. I've also got this heal, just to show you what that is. It's the sound of you bandaging yourself up in game. Anyway, the next event I want to show you is the door event. So let's go to that. Now, the reason I wanted to show you this is because with the controls, when you open and close a door, it will do different things depending on whether you're sneaking or not. So if you open the door and you're not in sneak mode, it'll be quite loud, quite fast. And the same when you're closing it. But if you are in sneak mode, you will open the door sort of more slowly and more quietly. And at this point, the player would be peeking through the door, and if you come out of sneak mode, you would just push the door the rest of the way and get up quite silently. Now, if you wanted to close the door in sneak mode, go back and sneak. And it does that. And then you can obviously lock and unlock the door. Now I'm going to skip to the menu sounds, and this will be the last set of sounds that I show you. The idea is when you pause the menu, when you pause the game, you get this little animation of you opening your journal, and some smoke would come around, and it would play this sound. So you have background music or background sound effect, and you even have some scatter sounds to make it a little more interesting. Now, obviously this is a seamless loop, so you're not going to hear a little clip, or it's not going to fade out and then fade back in again. It's going to seem like it's continuing all the time. Now, to keep with the theme of you opening your journal, when you highlight different selections on the menu, it sounds like a pen clicking with some ambient reverb on it. And then when you select something, you get the sound of a page turning. And then when you close it, you get this little transition. Anyway, that's the end of this demonstration. There's lots more to see, but this is already getting quite a long video anyway, so I think we'll leave it there. Thank you.